It's beautiful, right? These crystal clear flowing waters. I mean, it's just simply beautiful. I've known for years when I go out into the mountains, anytime I see these little crystal clear mountain streams burbling along, it somehow lifts my heart and soul, and I just feel this sense of goodness. And I think the reason for that is because on a deep animal biological level, I know that crystal clear water is drinkable water. And I know that my life depends on water to drink. And there's something really similar, when I walk around this land and I see this just green, lush jungle of plant life, it has a similar effect on me. I feel this sense of well-being. I feel this sense that things are going to be okay. And I think it's for the exact same reason. On an animal level, I know that if I am in a thriving natural ecosystem, if I'm in an ecosystem that is healthy and functioning well, I am fundamentally going to be okay. I will find food to eat. I will, survive. In the most basic sense, I will survive. Our survival as human beings is completely and totally dependent on all of this, on clean water to drink, on breathable, non-toxic air, and on a landscape that is healthy enough to produce food. It's that simple. It is that simple. We all know deep within our biological self, we all know that our lives are dependent on this natural ecosystem. Everything that gives us life comes from nature. Clean air, clean water, non-poisonous soil where we can grow food. It is that simple. And so it's interesting to me that I really think the biggest problem in society today is disconnection. People are so disconnected that they've allowed themselves to be convinced that somehow we don't need any of this. We can sell this land off to the corporations, let them drill more oil and gas, and we can let them just pump more oil and gas through the landscape and poison the air and poison the water, and somehow we're going to be okay. Just almost, darn. I just snapped this spider web here. Sorry, spider. So yeah, it's wild to me how simple and straightforward all this is. Look at these amazing monk's hoods. It's all so very simple. It is so simple. We just need to continue to take care of our world so our world can continue to take care of us. But there are a handful of individuals who make billions of dollars by destroying our world, by sentencing us all to death. And our government just signed a budget bill which encourages the destruction of our planet. And when I say, as I did last week, that budget bill is a declaration of war against all life on Earth, that's exactly what I mean. That budget bill, if it is executed as intended, it is a death sentence for much of life on Earth. I mean, again, just look at this landscape. How many different plants, how many different insects, how many different birds, how many different fungi, how many different forms of life are functioning here to make this ecosystem work. It's why I've been so careful in the building of my house, why I chose a spot where I didn't have to cut down trees, why I designed the borders of my house to match where the trees were. I could have made a bigger house by clearing trees, but I didn't want to clear the trees because I know that my life depends on these trees being healthy. My life depends on this hummingbird being healthy. My life depends on these plants being healthy. And this system, I mean, if you imagine, like maybe over in the distance there, you can see my car and my truck, right? I want all of us to imagine You know, a car has 4 wheels, it's got an engine, it's got an exhaust system, it's got all these intricate systems, right? How many parts can you take off of your car before it stops working? Can you move one part? Well, you can certainly take the radio out, the car will still drive. You can take the air conditioning system out, the car will still drive. You can maybe take off one of the full-size tires and replace it with a spare, car still drives. What else could you take off? You could take off, a lot of the interior trim, seat belts, dashboard. You could take out the seats. It still drives. It's not very comfortable to drive at that point, but it'll still drive. But at a certain point, you take out the cooling system, car is going to shut down almost immediately. Take out the gasoline, it doesn't work. Take out the oil, it doesn't work. Take out the spark plugs, it doesn't work. And so my analogy here is that a car maybe has a couple thousand parts if you include every bolt and nut and every piece of plastic trim and whatever. And you can only take out so many parts before the car stops working. And you can only take out very few of the critical components. You can't take any of the critical components out. You can't take out the cooling system, the radiator, the cooling fan, any of the engine components, the exhaust system. You can't take out any of those parts without the car shutting down entirely. This system, nature, has trillions of working parts. So you tell me, which parts can you take out and still have a viable planet that supports our lives? Guesses? Anyone? Well, it's trillions of parts, so the chances are you can take out a lot of the parts. But which parts are really critical? Could it be the Amazon rainforest that processes a lot of the air for the world and gives us clean air to breathe? Could it be the oceans, which are also critical to life on Earth? But guess what? The oceans are being overfished. The oceans are being overheated to the point where coral is dying. Coral is where many of the fish species propagate and where their young, basically have their nursery, on and on down the line. The point is, you can only do so much harm to the vital systems of this planet before we all are in peril ourselves, before the fundamental systems of ecology start shutting down and this thing doesn't work anymore. And this thing is our life support system. We are not separate from this. We are completely and totally dependent on this. So that's the point. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt, there is zero doubt that putting carbon into the atmosphere heats the climate, and when you have a heated climate, you have more extreme weather, higher high temperatures. You have, because the weather is warmer, storm systems hold more water, so you have 3 massive flooding events here in the United States this week. That is something that would not have happened in the 1920s before we had so much carbon in the atmosphere. Probably wouldn't have happened in the 1950s. Probably wouldn't have happened in the 1970s when the oil companies themselves were doing the preliminary research and understanding that their actions were going to cause major problems for the life support systems of this planet. And what did they do when they discovered that? Did they think, oh my gosh, we better warn the rest of humanity. We need to let everyone know that this industry of ours could lead to the loss of most life on Earth? No, they didn't do that. What they did was bury their own information and then launch a campaign of misinformation and confusion in order to call into question their own science, and science that has been developed further and further in the ensuing 50 years, to the point where there's no shadow of a doubt any legitimate scientist will tell you that yes, human actions are changing our climate, and the changes to that climate are going to make life less and less sustainable on planet Earth. And we're going to have more and more extreme weather events resulting in loss of life. This budget bill that just passed directly funds more fossil fuel development, which will make life on Earth less viable, and it defunds sustainable energy development, which could make life on Earth more viable. We need to transition away from fossil fuels. That's that simple. Your money or your life. Your convenience or your life. Do you, fossil fuel industry leaders, Do you want to have even more money? You already have billions of dollars that you can't possibly spend in one lifetime. Do you want even more money, or do you want to live? It's that simple. We need all of this to live. We do not need oil-driven automobiles in order to live. We can ride bicycles. We can, develop hydrogen-powered vehicles. There are electric vehicles which have their own problems, on and on. But humanity is amazing. We are so amazing at solving problems. We are so amazing at innovating when we're given the chance. And we've had that chance, and innovation has happened. We've got a stack of solar panels right there waiting to be installed so that my house isn't requiring any fossil fuel energy to be livable. We created that. We are brilliant at solving problems. But a handful of people who already have billions of dollars for some reason think they need billions more, and so they've used their billions of dollars to influence our political system, to shut down innovation, to thwart capitalism in action. They're not capitalists. They're anti-capitalists who are interfering with capitalism at work, who are interfering with the development of innovation and new technologies that would actually make our lives better and provide cleaner, more sustainable energy. They're interfering with all of that by buying our politicians, influencing our politicians, having laws written like this Budget Act, which prevent us from moving forward in a sustainable way. And so I want you now, looking out on this verdant green paradise that is planet Earth, imagine all this gone. Imagine all this turned to desert. Imagine no birds singing. Imagine that creek is dried up because there's no more snow falling in the mountains. Imagine not being able to find any food to eat because food doesn't grow anymore because it's just too darn hot. That's pretty bleak. That is a grim reality. That's a reality where lots of life on Earth, I would estimate easily 50% of life on Earth is at risk right now, possibly closer to 90%. So that's our choice. We either believe the bullshit of a few billionaires who are trying to convince us that the only way to do things is the way things have always been done, which if that was true, we'd still be cooking on campfires in caves. So it's obviously not true. We can always innovate and change and adapt and evolve. But they don't want us to. They want us to stay stuck using their technology so they can make more money. And instead of being global leaders and pioneering the clean energy revolution, they want us to be a global anchor dragging everyone down into a hellscape that I think is hard for most people to rightly imagine. So anyhow, let's choose life, shall we? Choose life. Life is amazing. Planet Earth is amazing. Your biology knows this. Your body knows. When you see this, it lights up and it feels joy and delight and wonder because you know on an intrinsic level that all of this supports your life and well-being. So let's choose that. Right on, people. Get out there. Get connected. Make a difference. Cheer each other up. Do things that allow you to feel powerful and like you can make a difference in the world, because the truth is we can and we are, and we have to keep going with that. All right. Love y'all.